Home buyers and businesses in Singapore alike are bracing for higher borrowing costs with the latest Fed rate hike. If you have recently been retrenched, know what your rights under the law and how you can protect yourself. And it's Earth Overshoot Day, the day when the world goes beyond the limits of what our planet can sustain in 12 months. Good evening, you're watching The Big Story with me, Harianto Diman. Subscribe to the Straits Times channel so you will not miss an episode. When the US Central Bank makes it more expensive to borrow money, it means interest rates will most likely also rise here in Singapore. And that will mean more pain for home buyers and businesses, with mortgage and financing costs going up. Overnight, the Federal Reserve raised its key rate by 0.75 percentage point for the second month in a row to fight rising inflation. By hiking rates, the Fed is hoping to reduce demand in the economy and to slow down price growth. It's a delicate balancing act now, and if it goes wrong, it could plunge the US into a recession.
We're trying not to make a mistake. Let me put it this way. We do see that there are two-sided risks. There would be the risk of doing too much and imposing more of a downturn on the economy than was necessary. But the risk of doing too little and leaving the economy with this entrenched inflation, it only raises the cost. If you fail to deal with it in the near term, it only raises the cost of dealing with it later.
Like Wall Street, the Singapore stock market reacting positively to the Fed's move, and Chairman Jerome Powell suggesting that the central bank will likely slow the pace of future rate hikes. The ST index closing up 0.5% today. In other news, the public sector reported 178 cases of data leaks in the 12 months to March 31st, a sharp 65% increase from the preceding year. All the incidents were assessed to be of low to medium severity, with the Smart Nation and Digital Government Office defining medium severity to mean that a government agency had suffered difficult or undesirable consequences with minor inconvenience to individuals or businesses. Over 800 complaints against renovation contractors were lodged with the Consumers Association of Singapore in the first half of the year, and about 2/3 of them involve contractors failing to complete projects on schedule, as well as unsatisfactory workmanship. The trial involving a retrenched GlaxoSmithKline employee suing the company continues into its second day today. Kalivalap Pravin Nair is an Indian national who'd moved to Singapore for the job, and after being retrenched on the grounds of redundancy 2 years later, he's now suing GSK for about $1.35 million, arguing that he wasn't considered for various roles within the company. Mr. Nair says this lawsuit is a result of GSK breaching its employment agreement, and that if he had been given the opportunity to be considered for other roles, he would likely have secured one of them and wouldn't have been made redundant. GSK has counterclaimed, seeking about $95,200 from Mr. Nair's severance package, which it said was paid to him by mistake. Joining me now is lawyer Justin Chan, a senior partner at Tito Isaac Co. Justin, what help or compensation can I claim when I've been made redundant?
I think the first step would be to look at your employment contract. Your employment contract may state what happens when you're being made redundant and any benefits that you may have on account of redundancy. The second document that you look at is the termination letter that's been issued to you by the employer. In that termination letter would also usually state why you've been made redundant and if there are any benefits that have been set out on account of that redundancy. when that happens, and if there are clauses to that effect and they're not being carried out for the employer, you can sue on a contractual basis as to what you were supposed to have gotten when you were made redundant.
So Justin, you mentioned suing on a contractual basis. What else? What other bases or grounds can a retrenched staff member sue?
Retrenchment covers a whole range of situations. It could, in the eyes of the law, this can include termination, which means the employer has given you your working papers. Number two, it could include constructive dismissal, which means that the employer has acted in such a way that has forced you to resign. And I think these two are important because in the case of both these situations are actionable in court. And you can sue not on contract, but in according to common law, that you've either been wrongfully dismissed or constructively dismissed. So these are the mechanisms that you can use. There are various self-help procedures as well. For example, you could file a wrongful dismissal claim with the Tripartite Alliance for Dispute Resolution and the Ministry of Manpower as a stakeholder. Basically, this is a body that tries to mediate employment disputes, and you can file a claim and invite them to mediate this matter for you.
And Justin, what sort of proof is needed to justify or show that the retrenchment is done unfairly?
Well, it's a question of degree. Proof can run the spectrum from being unbelievable, persuasive, all the way to concrete. So concrete evidence will usually win you the case. In Singapore, you need to prove your case beyond the balance of probabilities, which is 51%. So for example, if you have a performance appraisal which says that you're a very good employee, but then you were let go on the basis that you were a bad employee, that black and white appraisal letter would of course be very, very important as a piece of evidence. In relation to things like constructive dismissal, for example, you would have to prove that you were maybe denied certain opportunities that would ordinarily have come to you, either based on your seniority or based on the contract that you have signed with the company. So again, it's not a hard and fast rule. It must match what case you're putting forward before the courts.
Justin, thank you for the insights. Justin Chan there, a senior partner at law firm Tito Isaac Co. It's July the 28th today, and we've already consumed more this year than the planet can regenerate in 12 months. Known as Earth Overshoot Day, it's a yearly reminder that humanity is living well beyond its means. When it comes to individual countries, if the world lived like Singapore, the Earth would have run out of resources by April 8th. Now, looking at other countries in the region, it's May 16th for Malaysia, June 2nd for China, September 3rd for Thailand, and December 3rd for Indonesia. Every year, the day comes earlier and earlier, and experts say it's a growing crisis that threatens future generations. So, what else can we do to reduce our ecological footprint? How about cutting down on food waste, taking more public transport, or walking and cycling more? Well, you could also recycle your household waste or buy quality second-hand items wherever possible. Just a few small steps that will also save you money. For more, check out our interactive online Earth Overshoot Day. We're living like we have 1.75 Earths. Find out how mankind is consuming way more natural resources than the planet can replenish each year. Meanwhile, speaking on its 2022 sustainability report, Monetary Authority of Singapore Chief Ravi Menon says the carbon footprint of excess new notes issued to meet festive demand like for Chinese New Year makes up about 8% of the central bank's total emissions each year. And so, MAS will intensify efforts to promote e-payment to reduce public demand for new notes and coins, which will in turn cut its carbon emissions. MAS also announcing that funds sold to retail investors in Singapore to meet environmental, social and governance standards will be subject to new guidelines, which take effect from January next year. Those are our top stories today. Visit straitstimes.com for more news and our YouTube channel for more videos. Subscribe by hitting the red button below. I'm Haryanto Diman. Join us tomorrow for more stories on The Big Story.